Well, hello. Today's wake up call is going to be about excuses and how to get past them. I'm Stacey Hall, and I am a digital mentors coach and a proud member of this community and a recovering excuse maker. I think we all have been there. We've all had the experience of creating excuses to others, but most importantly, excuses to ourselves as to why we don't do what we say we're going to do, right? Why we can't stay self accountable. And I'm not here to beat anybody up about it. There's nothing wrong. It's what we do. The difficulty with making excuses to ourselves is that we think that's the way it just is. I'm going to give lots of examples today about what I mean by this. And then I'm going to share with you how we can unhook ourselves, because I really believe it's sort of like we go along, and then all of a sudden something happens or doesn't happen, most likely. We make an excuse about it. It's like we hang ourselves on this hook and we're stuck there. Like we can't get off that hook of the excuse. And so that's where our progress stops, or at least that's how it was for me. And if you feel the same, if what I'm saying makes sense to you, let me know. So, for example, one of the biggest excuses that I have come to hear is that somebody is a perfectionist. Like they can't get going until it's perfect. And why did I pick this one first? You can imagine that was mine all the time, because I grew up in a household where I was told things had to be perfect. And I got in trouble if they weren't according to certain standards. So then when I started to do things and I didn't think they were up to standard, to avoid getting punished, like fired, in a job, or being reprimanded, that my excuse would be, I'm a perfectionist. Like, that solves all my problems. And that would be the excuse I would give to other people. Like, that solved their problem with me, which of course it did not. And it didn't feel good within me to give that excuse. And it hung me up because it's like I had a label. Now I have to live up to being a perfectionist, which means I always have to be perfect. So it hung me up. I tell the story often, which is why I also started with this one, because I'm going to share some others. But this is the story, true story, tell it all the time, about how I was able to break the label of perfectionist on me and get off the hook. I was at a big event where Zig Ziglar was speaking. He was one of the speakers. And I had grown up listening to Zig Ziglar's tapes from my dad's. And I'm like, okay, I know Zig Ziglar. I'm going to get out of here and, get some fresh air. And I get up out of my seat as he's coming on stage, and I'm like in the middle of the aisle at this big arena. And so I'm having to sidle, like slide across people as they're pulling their feet back up in the seat and leaning back so I can get past them to get out to the aisle to get out of the arena. And he starts with, anything worth doing is worth doing. And I'm saying to myself, yeah, perfectly. I know. I really do not need to hear this. And he pauses, and I'm still making my way to the aisle. And he says, poorly. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. And I went, what the? Okay. Yeah. In my head, I finished that sentence. And I stopped literally in front of somebody who was leaning back with their feet up, like, like, hey, which move yourself one way or the other. And I was like dumbfounded. And I stood there. I was like, what's he going to say next? And he said, because if you're not willing to do it poorly the first time, you're not willing to learn how to do it perfectly eventually. And I go, whoa, I never heard him say that before. And I made my way back to my seat and I sat and I listened to the rest of what he said. And I could not tell you what he said because just that concept of anything worth doing is worth doing poorly at the beginning was like a sledgehammer to the cement that I was in. Or if you would, somebody came along and pulled me off the hook. And I went, oh my God, that's such truth. Like, that's what I've always been like. That's what nobody understood when I was a child is I had to do it poorly so you could tell me what I did wrong so that I could improve on it. How could I do it perfectly the first time? And then that's what led me to the world I live in, which is I play, I explore, I discover. There's never failure. In fact, somebody yesterday asked me if I was upset about something because they didn't do something that I had requested. And here's the thing. I don't live in the world of upset. I live in the world of play, explore, discover. I played with giving that assignment. I explored what it would look like. It didn't come back to me. That's what I discovered the way I wanted it. So I'm going to play, explore, and discover some more. That's it. I didn't expect the person to be perfect because I don't expect myself to be perfect anymore. So what's the point of being upset? So if this is making sense to you, let me know in some way, drop an X, leave a comment. Okay. So there's the excuse, perfectionist. The other side of that excuse is somebody who calls themselves a procrastinator. And then that's the label that they pin on themselves. They're a procrastinator, which means they always have to procrastinate in their head. Like they've just labeled themselves. That's what they are. And they hang themselves on the hook. That if they don't feel like doing something, it's because they're a procrastinator. Okay. But if we explore deeper, what is the payoff for delaying? And that's what I want to tell you is if we can explore the payoff for living in an excuse for being hung up, once we look at, is there a payoff? And is that the payoff that we want to get? We can make stronger choices. Okay. So I looked at the payoff for being a perfectionist, was given this opportunity to look at what if you weren't. And I realized the payoff for being a perfectionist was keeping me from enjoying my life and succeeding. I gave it up. So as a procrastinator, it would be up to somebody to say to themselves, what's the payoff they get from being a procrastinator? And is it worth what they're sacrificing by not being a procrastinator? See, some people may actually enjoy it because it gets them off the hook from other people. They don't have to do what other people ask them to do because they're going to procrastinate and someone else will come along and do it for themselves anyway. But what is that costing them in their own life to be the procrastinator? See, I can't give the answer. All I can say is, let's look at the payoff. Is it worth staying on the hook? Do you get enough out of it to make it worth your while to be the procrastinator? Okay, another excuse that we hear around here a lot is just not techie. They're just not techie. That was me. I was having this conversation actually with Erin Birch the other day when I said to her, I'm absolutely amazed at what I'm able to do techie wise now. Not like I'm an expert, but I definitely can't say I'm not techie anymore. And it amazes me. And I can tell you, folks around DigitalMentors who have known me for a few years know that I could have stayed there. When I came in, I could have said I was not techie. I really didn't know anything about algorithms. I didn't think I wanted to know about algorithms. I didn't know really how to build a funnel, why you needed a funnel. It seemed like we could do things easier not doing a funnel. All sorts of ways that I could have made the excuse I don't need to be techie because I'm not. Cancel that. When I started seeing what other people were able to do by learning how to use Facebook properly, Instagram properly, LinkedIn properly, email properly, okay, other channels properly, which meant learning a little bit of the tech stuff, I realized the payoff getting off the hook was far greater than staying on it. I was losing money every day by not learning how to use the tools. So who was I hurting by telling myself that I wasn't techie? Only me, not hurting anybody else. And that would have kept me on the hook, and I wouldn't be here talking with you today if I hadn't learned enough to be able to know what has to get done and to be able to determine what I can do, what's within my comfort zone to do, and what is not. And then I go and hire someone to take care of that for me. At least I know what has to get done. So that statement of not being techie isn't holding me up anymore. It's not hanging me up anymore. Other excuses, okay? I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. That's an excuse. We can look like we're being kind, like we're so nice, we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. But if that's the reason we're not communicating our needs, because we don't want to hurt the other person's feelings, we're hanging ourselves up on that hook. You're stuck there. Because if we're not able to communicate what it is we need, how will we ever get it? And if we don't know how to communicate without upsetting somebody, because that's been our pattern, then it's time to look at what's the payoff by not learning how to communicate our needs. What is it costing us to stay hung on the hook versus finding a way to get off of it and being able to request what we require? I think this is starting to make a whole lot of sense, right? When we look at the payoff for staying on the hook versus the payoff for getting off the hook, more people would find a way to get off the hook when they realize an excuse is not just an excuse, it's a label. And it can keep us locked in the box. Okay? Another excuse. Somebody who says they don't know how to sell or they're not good at selling. Not good at selling. Really? Okay. There's a hook. Hanging on it. Lots and lots of people hanging on that hook. I know this because of the statistics of just in network marketing alone, only 3% of all network marketers make more than $200 a year. A year, not a month, a year, $200 a year. Only 3% make more than that. So there's a whole lot of people on the hook that they're not good at selling. All right, so what's the payoff? One payoff is they're not selling, they're not making money. But they don't want to go back and get a job. So they're broke. So they're struggling. How good is that? Not. So what's the payoff for learning how to make sales? The process of learning how to get to know an audience, how to engage with the audience, how to make offers to the audience, all of which we teach here at Digital Mentors, of course. Why are those folks not choosing to get off the hook and choose the payoff that's actually going to pay off in being able to make sales? Why? Because they've locked themselves or they've hung themselves on the hook that they're not good at sales. And that's their reality. It doesn't have to be their reality. You could choose another reality. Okay? Same with people who hang themselves on the hook that they don't know how to make friends on social media. It's a hook. You don't know how to make friends on social media. It's actually far easier to make friends on social media than it is in real life, especially these days. And I mean, I'm a bit on the older side. When I was younger, you could walk down the street, people would smile, they'd chat. In fact, Sunday, it was lovely. Bill and I walk the dogs every morning. And we always see this lovely lady, and we always nod and say hi. And on Sunday, she stopped. And I'm thrilled she did. And, there's a part of me that wishes I had been the one to do it first. But she stopped us and said, I see you every morning. I'd like to know who you are. And we had a 15-minute conversation. Now, I can tell you that I cannot remember the last time that occurred. Like, we'll see, because of the dogs, we see the same people walking with dogs, and we may say hi to them in the park, and we might even stop and chat with a few of them that we've seen over years. But for somebody who doesn't have dogs, who's just walking by, you could tell it touched my heart that she stopped. And now she's not a stranger. Now whenever we see her, we'll stop and we'll chat, and we're making a friendship. But that required somebody to come walking along, and for her to feel comfortable enough over time, a long time, before she felt that she could stop us and want to have a conversation with us. Social media is instantaneously, and there's billions of people available to have conversations with. Go into any group, people want to have chats. They're posting, comment, okay? But you know what people will hang themselves on the hook of? If I say anything, they're going to pitch me their business. That's a hook. If I say anything to people that are posting, I know what's going to happen. They're going to pitch me their business. So, yeah, can't say thank you. I'm thrilled that you love your business. It's not something I'm interested in because this is what I'm interested in. Like, there's a response to get yourself off the hook. And if the person responds, you never know what friendship could be built out of that. This is somebody who is passionate. They're wanting to meet people. They're just not doing it the right way. Why not teach them a better way? Because they're probably desperate. And one of the people who is not in the 3% of the folks who are making more than $200 a year, they're just desperate. They don't have cooties. And sometimes that's the way it's like, oh my God, they're going to pitch my business. What are you going to catch a virus from them? Just say, okay, thank you. I love that you're passionate about your business. I'm just as passionate about mine. This is what I do. I would love to get to know you better. See, we're both business people. Why don't we see if there's a way we can help each other? Or maybe you know people that would like what I do, and I know people that would like what you do. Let's explore it. See, that would get you off the hook. Or you can stay on the hook going, oh, I'm not going to make friends here because they're probably going to pitch me their business. All right. So what's the payoff for staying on that hook? Versus the other. And I can tell you, and I will not name names, that there are a few folks on my teams, a couple streams of income, who I met just that way. They pitched me. And I said what I said. And they appreciated the fact that I came back to them because, it's kind of like, hello, 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 hello. And no one's responding to them. But I responded. And we chatted. And we got to be friends. And they wound up joining my team because they liked the way I build relationships. See, that's another possibility. I'd rather have that payoff than I'm afraid they're going to pitch their business to me. I hope they do. It means they're social, it means they're active, it means they're business people. And business people talk about their business. Hey, just me. You want to stay on that hook? Stay on the hook, right? So there are many excuses for why we're not moving forward. Okay? Many excuses. Okay? Here's one that I hear all the time. I don't want to bother them. Like people get into coaching programs and then they don't ask for support. And if you ask, it's like, well, I didn't want to bother them. I didn't want to bother the coach. And so I can work it out myself. That's a hook. That's a hook to hang on. Okay? Why are we doing that? In a coaching program, why hang ourselves on a hook? It doesn't make sense. What's the payoff for not asking the question of a coach? Versus ask the question, you might get the answer, you might get a solution that might get you moving forward. To me, that's a much better payoff. All right, I've been getting lots and lots of comments here. It's time to go to the comments. Okay, so I'm going to say, hey, David, Mr. Fun, Brian, Kathleen, John, Terry, yeah, Elizabeth, nice, Tanis. Okay, Elizabeth says she's choosing not to identify as a procrastinator. Okay, so Elizabeth, what are you choosing to identify yourself as? Robert, lots need help. They are the audience. Rename and restart. Perhaps you can share more about that, Robert. I'm not getting the full picture right now. Thank you. Okay. So again, Elizabeth, rather than choosing not to be identified, what are you choosing to be identified? Hi, Brenda Jean. Okay, so I'm just wondering. Okay, Brenda Jean, yay. Ask the question. People with green thumbs are a good place to ask. Yes. So what Brenda Jean's referring to is in my Go for Yes program here at Digital Mentors. I talk about growing our goals from the ground up, seeding, sprouting, blooming, and that if we want to move through those cycles faster, we put seeds in the ground, we start to see signs that they're growing, and then they bloom and we harvest and we have sales. Yay! If we want to get to that stage faster, always best to get advice from people who already have done it and can save us the learning curve. Like just get us straight there. Like cut out all the stuff I don't need to know and just tell me what I want to know. Those are people with green thumbs, if that makes sense. Okay. Terry's saying to herself, I'm a tech wizard. Yes. Robert, just rename the hook you hung yourself on. Release the excuses. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly it. So any other comments or any questions? Anybody have a question they want to ask a coach? Because I am a coach. I'll answer any question here. We've got a few more minutes. Happy to do so. If you want to drop it, happy to help. All right, here comes Mark. If only 3% of the people in network marketing make over $200 a year, Mark, why is the industry so massive? Well, first off, Mark, you can Google the answer, and I'll tell you because I put it together from my book proposal. Billions and billions of people around the world. We're not just talking about the United States. Billions of people do network marketing, either on the side or full-time, whatever they call full-time. Because it's so easy to get into, that doesn't mean that they're making money. And as a coach, who has coached many, many network marketers and other entrepreneurs, that's usually where I'm meeting folks. They're barely covering what they're purchasing every month from the company. So that's what we're looking at, is everyone who identifies themselves in the industry versus the percentage of all those people that are actually making money. And there have been many studies done on this. So yeah, great question. Yep, $200 a year, Mark. That's what the study shows. 3%. So 3% of billions is a very large number, but that's still only 3%. And what does it matter to the people who are not in the 3%? Okay, they're struggling. All right, Tanis, I keep restarting because I keep quitting. I was in ICU. I've been out a month. So how do I get motivated again? Okay, well, there's your hook. I don't think I can sell. Okay, so you just put yourself on the hook, Tanis, right there. Okay, how do you get motivated again? Well, what's the payoff for not learning how to sell, Tanis? Okay, first off, it's really important that we all identify, if we want to get ourselves off the hook of an excuse, that we identify how important it is to get off the hook. Okay, so let me give an example. Let's say somebody has another source of income. They're married, or they're whatever it is. They have an inheritance. Someone else pays the bills. That person probably is not as motivated to learn how to sell as somebody who has no other stream of income coming to them. There's a lot of motivation in having to make money. People who have to make money figure out ways to make money. Like, they'll do whatever they have to do in order to survive. So survival is a major motivator, okay, for everybody. Tanis says, I don't think I could sell because I haven't sold in 10 years. Okay, well, Tanis, this is an opportunity for you to choose to learn, as you are right here, tips for how to sell. DigitalMentors makes my program available. Go for Yes, if you're a member. The Go for Yes videos are in your training library and in the guide section of our membership group. And it's 5 videos, and I teach you how to put together the process of how to meet people, what to say to them, when to say it, where to say it, so that you can make your offers. Okay? Erin Birch here has her posting for profits and prospecting and recruiting training. I highly recommend that you go through both Go for Yes as well as Erin's 2 programs, posting for prospects and prospecting and recruiting, to get started again and to get the foundational tools on what to offer. And then you'll be able to use the Digital Mentors tools to be able to create a lead magnet to offer to them, and then to be able to create what other materials you can sell to them. Or just use the affiliate links here at Digital Mentors. But watch those programs, do the exercises in all 3 of those programs, and they'll get you off the hook. Okay. I'll read you and get defiant. Okay. Get defiant if that's what it is. Get committed. Okay. Get in love with yourself and be able to have a payoff. Like the payoff for watching those videos and doing the exercises is you'll be able to make sales and you'll be off the hook. That was a great question, Tanis. Thank you so much. Does anyone else? I have a few more minutes. If anyone else has anything they want to ask a coach, coach is right here. Okay. Been the coach long before I was with Digital Mentors, and it's just made me better by having all these tools available. All right. So Tanis, why do people do this? They watch videos and they don't do anything. Well, I can't speak to everybody, Tanis. Each person has their own excuse. So the thing I can say is they all have an excuse. Whatever that excuse is, it's keeping them on the hook. So they're not able to get the payoff by being off the hook, which is why we want to take a look at what is the payoff we're getting by staying on the hook. And there will be people who will say, you know what? The payoff I'm getting here on this hook, just fine, gets me out of stuff. There are people who like that. And then there are people who, once they take a look, like I did with Zig Ziglar's inspiration, will go, what the? You mean I could have gotten off this hook all this time? I'm out of here, right? And I know everybody who's watching right now is right there with me. You're one of those people who are like, you mean I could just get myself off this hook like that? I'm out of here. So if you're out of here, would you drop an X? Okay. So Tanis, I've got people I teach how to do this that don't take my own advice. It's embarrassing at best. You know, I have a client, private client. She reached out to me for support, which I loved that she asked for the support. That said, the thing that she coaches people on is the very thing she was asking for me for support with. So my advice to her was, what would you tell a client in the same situation? Because I wanted her to remember that she knows the answer. Sometimes we forget to coach ourselves, right? Elizabeth, I find it hard to take my own advice. So it's just, but if we call ourselves a coach, stand in, okay, if a client came to me, what would I tell the client? I promise you, more times than not, it will get you off the hook. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you very much for being with me. I am Stacey Hall, and I love to empower people to stop being searchlights and become powerfully brilliant lighthouses so they can attract their audience, serve their audience, as a result, increase their income, and leave a legacy that lives on long after they're gone. Wishing you all a fabulous day. You know, I am wishing you an abundance of sales, satisfaction, and success today, every week, every month, every year, for all the years to come. Take care.